In today's tutorial, let's learn how to do the Globetrotter Shawl together, and that's coming up next. Welcome back to Yarnspirations as well as thecrochetcrowd.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today's tutorial we are going to do the Globetrotter Shawl together, and it's in 4 different chapters in this particular video. On screen now will appear a menu, and you can either learn how to review the pattern with me, or you can just get right started with the Bruges lace, or you can do the center strip, or you can learn how to do the fringe. If you play the whole video, you'll learn everything from start to finish, but I figured I'd give you an option. So without further ado, make your choice now, and we'll see you in the next part of this tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, we're going to start reviewing the pattern itself, and we're going to just go quickly through the written instructions, not detailed line by line, but just very quick things that you need to know. And then I'm going to take my time and show you how to be able to follow the crochet diagrams that are available. So the wonderful thing about this whole entire pattern is that not only are you getting the written words, but you're actually getting the diagrams to be able to follow along, which I really super appreciate. So let's begin to look at the pattern more carefully. So in the more information of this video, there is a direct link to be able to get the pattern for this particular shawl, and it comes with all the written instructions that you need in order to make it from start to finish. But it also, if you flip through, it has the written diagrams as well to be able to follow along if the words kind of intimidate you in any way. So basically right off the bat that we have to realize that we're using a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, and if you're in the US or prefer your US measurements, you'll know this as a size F crochet hook. We're going to be using Peyton's Croy sock yarn today to make this shawl, and it's the FX line just like you see here. It transitions in color really slowly to give you the amazing look that you see within the model's photograph. It is really amazing. So you're thinking to yourself, why did they use Croy socks to make a shawl? Well, the reality is that sock yarn is really quite durable, and it's really quite amazing drape. Don't underestimate just because of sock yarn that you just have to use it for socks. It's really a great. And now in the written instructions that what we have here is that this is the abbreviation key. So everything that is in abbreviations in the instructions going down is listed here. There's nothing here that I think that is too crazy, but we are going to walk through the instructions step by step once we get to the tutorial element to this particular video today. Now the instructions are divided up into 3 sections. We have the Bruges lace strip. So you can see that there's an S formation, and there's one strip here, and there's a strip on the opposite side, so you have to do 2 strips. And then what happens is that when you flip the page that you have a center strip, and so then the center strip instructions are like so. And again, this looks like a lot of words, but when I flip it even further, you're gonna notice that there is actually diagrams and more to be able to follow along. So everything that is in written format is basically on this page, and you can have access to that too in the more information of this video. So with the Bruges lace strip being the first 2 things that you need to create, and then you do the center strip which attaches to the Bruges lace strips, we then have the fringing, and of course we're gonna cover that later on in this tutorial too. So you basically have 3 different sections that you have to perform in order to make this shawl completely. So now that we've covered the written word instructions, you know, I said it was going to be pretty quick, and it is. I'm actually going to feature more on the diagram, because if you can follow this diagram, you are laughing and you can save yourself a lot of headache. Now one thing I really love about this is that the designer Julia, I actually asked her if she could change the colors of the diagram. Here it's blue and black. They're kind of hard to see, and so she went ahead and she actually changed the colors, and you'll notice that in the written instructions that you'll have access to, where it's orange and black, and it's much easier to be able to tell where you are in the pattern because of the differentials of colors. What we have in the actual set of instructions is that we have the Bruges lace strip. It's in the S formation just like so. This here, the center strip, this is how it attaches. So basically you're gonna do 2 strips and then basically start the center strip by attaching it with 1, and we'll get into that as we get further on into this tutorial. And then basically over here, this is the center strip, and you'll notice that there's a repeat pattern just like this, and then here is the other strip on the other side and being able to join it. So basically this diagram here shows the Bruges lace strip on one side, the center strip on the inside, and then the other Bruges lace on the other side. So do you see that there's blue and orange lines here? That's because there's a repeat pattern going on in the center of this, and that's just indicating how many times it's actually happening. So this is a really great concept, but I'm going to now take you into the S formation. This is the one that I think will be the most used and the most complex of the three that you need to use. So let's look at the diagram more closely up, and of course these diagrams, if you can read these kind of things, you're basically laughing, because the reality is that you don't actually have to use any of the written instructions to be able to follow, because you can just follow the diagram. So when we go to start, we're actually gonna start right here. This is a period, this is a slip stitch, and you can either say on the pattern it says chain 13, but you can also just count the number of stitches and go all the way around. So you just go around to chain 13 to form a ring, and then we chain 6. So once you start off like this and go around, and so basically every color change is a different set of instructions as per the written words in the written diagram. So basically you'll follow this one all the way through, and here's 1. So basically it's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So if you're confused at any point on what any of these symbols mean, the wonderful thing about these kind of things is, especially because it's coming from an official source, is that everything that you have for the symbols has a key. And so you can look at the key really quickly and determine what it is. But the reality is that Yarnspirations stays within the standards of the Yarn Craft Council, and because of that this matches all standards. So basically you can look at it, and if you know what the symbol is, you don't have to second guess that it might be something else. So basically you're just following the line, and then basically see where it turns orange. Well, this is the next set of instructions for row number 2. It's got a 2 there. So this is row number 2, and then you follow it and see it stops, and then this is the instructions for row number 3. And so you're following this thing like a snaking formation going all the way up, just like this. And then basically you can see every other line is basically a solid set of instructions. So you have 5 double crochets here, 5 double crochets here. There are basically a single, half double, 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 and treble, but it's still solid, solid, solid. So the point being is that because every other line is a different color, just like so, it's very easy to follow along. Now where you're gonna get hung up is in this bottom section right here between 17 to 23. I had to do this several times before getting it right, and I had to do it multiple times down the chain in order to do it right. And the reality is that because you're looking at this here, and what the designer explains to me is that I was having trouble remembering what I need to do on the upper side and what I need to do on the bottom. These are not mirror images of each other. So when we go to start off to do the bend, you can see that we have the solids. We have a single, half double, 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 and treble. And then we finish with that same configuration on this side. But when we go to start the bend on the bottom side, or the curve, it starts off with just some gapping spaces. Okay, and then we go all the way, and it finishes with a gapping space. So what I decided to do for myself, and you can do this for yourself if you wish, is that you can create yourself, just highlight what those are. And the reason why I highlighted it is that I wanted to make sure that I count these properly. So I highlighted where it's solid on the top, and you see that there's 4 solids on the top here, meaning that it's all filled in and there's gapping spaces in between. And this one here, there's only 3. So basically on the top side of the curve you're always gonna have those 4 solids, and on the bottom side you're only gonna have 3. And so this is a combination of 7 rows that do the turn, and because it has only 7 rows, it doesn't allow you to be able to have the mirror image on the other side of this particular pattern today. And this is what I think is the biggest hang up. But I also have another tip for you, which I think is more important. The second biggest tip, other than doing the highlighting, I would recommend grabbing a yarn string and cutting it maybe about 6 feet long, and cut 2 of those and cut them as a different color, and write on the color name on the top here. So if we decide to use red, then write the letters red on the top, and if we'd like to use green on the bottom, write the words green on the bottom. The reason why I want you to do this is that, do you see that this comes down and it just stops? Just like so. And so what I want you to do is that every time you finish an upper curve, I want you to drag a red string through the middle section. So just feed it through and just let it hold there. And every time you do a middle section on the top side, just pull the red through. So eventually you're going to have this red string join all the way across, and it's just a stitch marker. Same thing on the bottom. When you finish a bottom one, grab a green string and pull it through this one, and the next time you go and do the next one, you're going to pull that green through. So basically you have your strands going and dragging along. Let me show you an example of what I've done. So here's an example of what I've done. So I used like a kind of a reddish string up top, and I fed it through the middle section just like so. So this is telling me every time that this is the top side as per the diagram that we have in behind, and the bottom section is the green, which is the bottom side. The reality is that when you go to crochet with this, every other row you have to turn your project backwards in order to turn around, right? Because that's the rows. We have to turn around, turn around, turn around, turn around. And because of that, you get confused on what is up and what is down as per the diagram. So what I decided to do for myself, and it sped myself up so fast, because I can always tell regardless of how it's turned around, I can tell you that this is the top because the red is there. But if this was not here and I turned it, and I turned it enough times, you would never know what is up and what's down, especially if you're watching TV or just being able to look which is up and which is down. When I started it, I did about a foot of the project and I couldn't remember what was up and what was down, and the only way to be able to tell that is that you have to come back all the way to the start and determine what is the direction of the start. So as per the diagram, you see that it's facing down like so, and see how it's facing up here. So I can tell that this side is actually my down, so I have to turn it around in order to match the diagram. Okay, does that make sense? So what I would have done on this, because the red I've already pulled it through, is the red would have been on the tops here and the greens would have been down on the bottom, and I would have pulled that all the way along. So you can see as I went all the way across just like so. I've always done it so that I can figure out what is up and what's down. This is the best tip I think I can ever give you with this particular project. So the final tip that I have for you today is that I want you to look at this diagram one more time, and we have rows 1 to 5, and then we have 6 to 27, and then we have nothing here listed. There's a reason for that. So let me show you why I have set it just that way. So let me flip my page. So when we start our pattern today, I'm going to take you through rows 1 to 5. This is the very start, and this only appears once in your pattern. You'll notice in the written instructions that it will ask you to repeat rows from 6 to 27, and you want to continue. So every time that you finish this hole from 6 to 27, and you finished 27, this is row 6 again as you begin to go and start again. So in the instructions that you'll have in the tutorials that I'm gonna take you through 1 to 5, and then I'm gonna film from 6 to 27, and there will be a reverse button after 27 to take you back to number 6 in order for you to really clearly understand your pattern. At the end, what we're going to do then is that once you have all of your rows, all of your curves done, so when you're done, when you look at the other diagram that I showed you earlier, and let me pull that out for you now, is that it shows you the number of curves that you're going to need. So to make it easier for you is that there is always going to be, and this is how it looks in the diagram with it facing down, there's always going to be 20 of the curves in the upper side, and there's only going to be 19 on the lower side. So what you have to do is that once you have 19 of these in the upper side, just like so, in the upper side, because this is facing down, if you have 19 of this, the final 20th is actually your very last one going up and over in finishing. So everything on the last line up until the very last row of the next row that you see here is actually the finishing of your particular Bruges lace strip. So you're just going to continue to repeats from 6 to 27 all the way until you get 19 of these things all done in the upper side, and then you're going to finish it off then and just complete the last one over here and then finish it. So today's tutorial is going to be in 3 sections, from 1 to 5 and then 6 to 27, and then I'll show you how to do the end then for the Bruges lace strip before moving on to the center strip. So let's start the Bruges lace together, and we're going to need a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, a size F, and we're going to be using one of the colors for the Croy socks in the FX line. If you would like to achieve the same results that you see within the model. Also, just for information, you're going to need two 6-foot stitch markers, and it's just basically leftover string, and I'm gonna be showing you how to apply. So if you've actually watched the whole pattern review section, you'll know exactly what I'm doing at this particular point, and I'm going to start you off with rows 1 through 5, and then we're gonna then move on to the sections from 6 to 27, which is your repeat pattern. There will be a rewind button at the end of 27 to take you back to row number 6 in order to repeat it, and then we're gonna finish off and do the final curve as we go all the way down the line. So without further ado, let's grab our yarn and let's get started. So let's create a slip knot using your Crochet FX and your 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, and I'm gonna start off with row number 1, and we need to chain 13, and I'm going to be following my crochet diagram on the side of the camera, but you'll never know that because you won't see it. So let's chain 13 to begin. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 and 13. After you get 13 done, please just go into the beginning chain, insert your hook in, grab your yarn and pull through and through as a slip stitch, and that will then form your ring that you need for the very start. Let's begin row number 1, and you'll see in the instructions that it has like the chaining of 6. All of the chains, and let me pull up the diagram just to show you one more time, is that the diagram always starts off with chains. Just like this. So the only time that you don't start off with chains is actually when you're inside of this. So one side will have chains and the other side will not, and it's the same thing on the other side, just like you see. So when you're moving up into the regular sections, and you'll notice that the middle 4 rows are always identical to each other, is that you're always gonna start off with chaining of 6. So let's begin with a chain 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and as per the diagram, this one is going to have a double crochet into the very beginning of where you started, so right into that slip stitch where you started, and then you're gonna do a chain 1. You're going to skip 1 chain and go to the second over, and that'll be a double crochet. I'm trying to hide in my loose end at the same time, catching it into the stitch, and then you're going to follow that with a chain 1, and then skip 1 more chain and go to the second one over, and you're going to double crochet. So every other row we are going to have this double crochet kind of spacing that you see. So you're gonna have a chain 1 spacing, and that happens every other row, including the inside and outside circles that you have in the tops and the bottoms. Let's turn our work and move up to row number 2. Row number 2, we're gonna start off with chaining of 6. So you shouldn't be surprised by that by now. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and then we want to double crochet into the first double crochet that you have, so it's right where you started, and this is the row that I consider solid. So the next chain 1 space is going to be a double crochet. The middle double crochet that you're gonna run into will be a double crochet as well. So it's a double crochet all the way across. So the next chain 1 space, again double crochet, and then the final double crochet will be a double crochet. So we totally ignore these chains at this particular point in the project. So you can see, so one row will be these gapping spaces, and the other one will be all filled in. Let's move on to row number 3. Let's turn our work for row number 3. So we're gonna start off with the chaining of 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. This row is one of these gapping space rows. So every other row is opposite to each other. So that even happens on the curves. Always remember that. It'll make it easier for you. So the very first one will be a double crochet into the starting, followed by a chain 1, skip the next double crochet, go into the second one over, so this is the middle one, followed by a chain 1 and go into the last double crochet. So you're skipping over 1. So there'll always only be 5 stitches right in the center, including this will happen on the curves as well, and that's, there we go, is row number 3. Let's move up to row number 4. Let's turn our work and chain 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and we come into the very starting one, and so if the last one had gapping spaces in it, this one is a solid. So the first one gets a double crochet goes into the chain 1 space under it, and then the next one is, the middle one is a double crochet, the next chain 1 space is a double crochet, and then the final stitch is a double crochet, and that completes off row number 4. Let's turn our work and go for row number 5. Row number 5 is the final before we starting the repeat pattern. So let's chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we want to double crochet into the beginning double crochet, and this one has a gapping space, so that means that we have to have a chain 1 after this, skip 1 stitch, go to the second over just like this, chain 1 and then double crochet into the last one. So we're skipping the next one, going to the second one over. So this is the end of row number 5. So at this particular point is that if you look at the pattern, we're just gonna pull that up in just a second. I'll show you. So as you can see the steps 1 through 5, and this is exactly what is in my hand. Now we're going to start with 6 to 27 next, and this is the repeat pattern that you're going to do for the remainder of this until you get to the very final. So you're gonna have the tops of these. There's gonna be 19 of these all done, and then you're gonna finish off with the last one, which makes it a 20 curves on the top, and there'll only be 19 on the bottom. Welcome to rows number 6 through to 27. This is your repeat pattern, and this is where you'll always come back to when you push the rewind button at the end of row number 27, because even if you go to start in this section here, that's the same thing as number 6. The only difference with the very ending of this is that you're going to put some extra chains, 1 extra chain at the end in order to bring it to conclusion to make it match to each other. Do you see the directions that they're both finishing up on? So when you're doing the S-ing formation, this one starts going up like this, and this one finishes going down like this, so it actually faces the same direction of facing down. So let's begin rows number 6 through to 27. Row number 6, let's turn our work, and we're going to start off with, and we're gonna start doing the first curve, which is in the upper section. So we're gonna start off by chaining of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So what's gonna happen in this particular instance is that the curve is actually gonna start at this particular area, start to bend. So we're gonna start off the first one with the treble. So we wrap the hook twice going into the first one. Okay, so the first double crochet and do the treble. So because the last row was a partial, and you see the one is solid underneath, this row has to be solid, and it has to maintain what you have already started. So it's always gonna be solid gap kind of in the rows. So the very next one then will be a double crochet right into the chain 1 space, and then the next one is a double crochet into the middle double crochet. The next one is the chain 1 space will be a half double crochet, because we're starting to do that bending and turning, and then the last one will be a single crochet. So what I just did is the same thing that exists every time you do the bends, every time you're turning corners. This will always be how it looks when you're going to do the solids when in a curve. Let's move on to row number 7. Let's turn our work. We're not gonna chain 6 to start like we have been. We're simply going to chain only 1 because we're on the inside of the curve, and we're going to single crochet into the very first one. So because we had a solid this time, and see how there was a gap underneath, this one has to be a gap kind of one. So we chain 1, we move to the middle one, which is, so we skip 1, move to the middle one for a double crochet, and then we do a chain 1 and then go into the very final one with a treble. So wrap twice and treble like so. So you can kind of see the bending is starting to happen as you see it. Let's move on to row number 8. Okay, row number 8, we're gonna turn our work first, and it's just like we did row number 6. So we're repeating exactly, see this loop here, we're kind of repeating exactly what we did. We're not kind of repeating, we are repeating. So we're gonna start off with chaining of 6 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we come back into the beginning one, and we treble first in. Now we know the one underneath is has the gapping spaces because the one under that is solid, so this one has to be solid. So it's gonna be a double crochet is into the next chain 1 space, double crochet into the middle, double crochet, the next chain 1 space will be a half double crochet, and then the final one is a single crochet, and that was row number 8. Okay, so you can really kind of see it going on. So let's move on to row number 9. Let's move on to row number 9. Let's turn our work, and we're gonna start off by chaining 1 first. So the last one was a solid. This one has to be a gapping one that we're about to do. So we chain one, we single crochet into the first one, followed by a chain one, skip the next one and go to the middle, go into the middle one here for a double crochet, a middle for the double crochet, chain one, and then the end for a treble. So wrap twice, and that's number 9. So what I want you to do at this point, this is number 9, so I want you to just pull up the string. Remember those stitch markers that I referred to? This is where I want you to pull it in, because if you look at the instructions, and I'll pull this up in just a sec, I want you to just pull a string through there. So I listed that this would be red, so I found something pretty close to red. It's pink, but I'm just gonna pull the string through, and this is just gonna remind me that every time I'm on this side, I'm on the top side of the diagram. And let me pull the diagram up and show you exactly what I've done. So here on number 9 that I've just finished is that I pulled the stitch marker right through this section right here. So every time that I finish one of these sections right at the very top, I pull that same string through. That's why I had you do it 6 feet. So you're just gonna pull the string and then pull it through here, so it'll look like a clothesline of all of these on one side. What you're going to do when we get to the bottom one, I have a color green or blue or something like that on the bottom, and I'm gonna use that string and pull through every time that I hit a bottom one here. And this will tell me every time which is up according to the diagram and what is down, and it makes it so much faster to be able to follow. Let's move up to row number 10, and I'm just gonna move that stitch marker out of my way so I can access my yarn. And it's just a holding place. Remember that. It's just something for you to visually reference to where you are on the project. So let's begin row number 10, and we're going to chain 6 to start. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you can tell that the row below is kind of gappy, and the row below that was actually solid. So this must be a solid one. So we're going to start off with the first chain 1 gap to be, we're going to treble first. Let me get my tension back into my hands, and we're gonna treble into the beginning one, and then the first chain 1 gap space is going to be a double crochet, and then the next one is going to be a double crochet, and then the next chain 1 space is going to be a half double crochet, and then the next one, the final, is a single crochet. And that is row number 10. Let's move on to row number 11, and we're gonna just turn our work, and we're gonna start off, and we're going to chain 1 first and single crochet into the first one, and you can tell the last one was solid because the one below that was a gapping. And so we have single crocheted in the first one, we're gonna chain 1, and we're gonna double crochet in the second one over. So you already know how to do this. Then chain 1 and then treble into the last one, and that is row number 11. So we have one more row to go before we stop doing the turning for this. So we've almost gone all the way around in a circle at this particular point. Let's turn our work and go to row number 12. This is the final turning spot. So we're gonna chain 6 first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we treble into the first one. So this is our very last corner before we go straight again down the runway, and basically the next chain 1 space will be a double crochet, the middle one will be a double crochet, the next one will be a half double crochet, and then the final is a single crochet. So this concludes numbers 6 to 12, and so let me just pull out the string, and you can basically see at this point with my stitch markers out of the way that I have done a complete corner of going around in the S formation. So what we're going to do as per the diagram is that we're going to start attaching these to a neighbor, and let me pull the diagram up and show you that again. So as I said, we've finished off row number 12, and this is the final. So when we go to start, we're gonna start attaching it to these chains that are opposite away. So I always say it's across the way. So we're going to start off by chaining a 3, slip stitch, and then chain 3, and then begin this one. These stitches appear upside down because it is following the way, and it's kind of how you're holding it as well. So it's kind of like you're doing this at this particular point, but it's just easier to always keep your diagram straight like this in order for you to make sense. So as you work down the runway, every other one is going to be attaching directly across, and then it's only attaching in 3 spots. So 1, 2, and 3. Once you get this one attached and then you come over here, it's already going to be the start of your next bend or curve as you go around. And I always remember that because it's always the same no matter what side you're on. So when you go in this formation again, it'll always be the same way. So what we're going to do then, let's go from rows 13 all the way to 16, and then we're going to start our bend corner on the bottom side, which is slightly different. It's the same stitches, but it's just starting off differently than it started over here. Let's start on row number 13, and 13 we're gonna start off by chaining 3. So 1, 2, and 3, and I want to position this and turn this in a way that I can reach to the first chain 6. So basically, do you see that there's 3 loops on the top of these? These are your joining across the way. Okay, so basically what I want to do is that I want to go for the very first one that I can see, because that's closest to the semicircle. I want to grab the yarn, pull through and through as a slip stitch, and then I want to chain 3 again. So 1, 2, 3, and then come back to where I was and begin the next one. So because this one's solid down here, this one here is going to be partial, so it's going to be a double crochet into the first one, followed by a chain 1. Okay, double crochet into the second one over, so you're skipping 1, followed by a chain 1, and then you're skipping 1 more and just double crocheting into the final, just like so. So basically you've just successfully done one of the joins in the semicircle going around. Let's move on to row number 14. Let's start row number 14. We're just gonna just turn our work and chain 6 to begin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So how do I know when to start chaining of 3 and when to start chaining of 6 when I have the join? Well, just think about it like you're on this side, so it's the outside corner, so there's nothing to attach to over here where I'm shaking my fingers. Okay, the joining is over here where I'm holding it. So you can only do that chain 3 and attach it to your neighbor when you're on the same side of each other. So I've just chained my 6, and so then this one is going to be a solid line, so it's going to be a double crochet into the first, and a double crochet into the chain 1 space, double crochet into the middle, double crochet into the chain 1 space, and then double crochet into the final. And so now when I go to start the next one, I can tell I'm on the same side, so I'm on the inside of the turn, and we're gonna start on row number 15 next. Row number 15 we're going to attach to our neighbor, so we're going to chain only 3, 1, 2, and 3. Just reach over and look for the next loop that's available to you and is ready for you. Just go around inside the loop, pull through and through for a slip stitch, turn your work, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So this time, because this row is now solid, this row has to be hollow, so it has to have the gapping space, so we double crochet into the first, chain 1, double crochet into the middle, chain 1, and double crochet into the final. And that was row number 15. So now you can see at this particular point, let me pull this out, is that you can see now it's attached twice in the center of the ring, just like there. So we only have one more time to attach before we start turning in the other direction for the S formation for the Bruges lace. Row number 16, let's start off by chaining a 3, or chaining a 6, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we come into the beginning one with a double crochet. And now this one is a solid one, so there's double crochet in the chain 1 space, double crochet into the middle, okay, double crochet into the chain 1 space, and double crochet into the final. And that concludes off row number 16. So row number 17 we're going to do our final join over here, and then we're gonna start bending in the opposite direction for where we are to keep that S formation going that you can see in the diagram. Okay, let's go for row number 17. We're gonna start off by chaining a 3, 1, 2, and 3. We want to join with the very last one that's available to you on this side and join through as a slip stitch, and we're gonna turn our work. Now I always know that because I figured it out in my own brain, is that you see how it's coming down, so it's coming down and back up and around. So this time when we start 17 whereas we continue 17, the curve is gonna start moving away from you. It's gonna be moving away from the S formation to keep the S formation going. So what I always remember is that I'm gonna chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and I always remember that this time when I go to start this is that I have to start off with the treble first, because I know that the curve is working away from me. So I have to start off bigger first, followed by a chain 1, because this is a gapping one, followed by a chain 1, and the middle one is a double crochet, followed by a chain 1 and then a single crochet. So basically this is now the center point of the next one that's going to be working in this direction right here. Let's move on to row number 18. Let's turn our work and move up to row number 18. 18 is a solid line, so we're just gonna chain 1 first, single crochet into the first one. We're going to half double crochet into the next one. Okay, then the middle one is going to be a double crochet, and then the next one is a double crochet into the final chain 1 space, and then the last one is a treble. Just like so, and you can kind of see that the bend is starting to happen. Let's move up to row number 19. 19 is next. So number 19 is gonna move up, and we're gonna chain 6 to begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and just simply start off with the treble into the first one. This one is going to be a gapping row, so you got a treble in the first one, followed by a chain 1, double crochet into the middle one, chain 1, and then single crochet into the first one, and that is there. So you can kind of see how everything is starting to really work out. These loops on the top now are becoming the loops, this is one of the 2 loops that are hanging loose on the bottom of the strip as per the diagram. So this is the next one that we're about to do, is the middle section, which is row number 20, that we'll mark with another stitch marker when we get that done. Let's move up to row number 20. Let's turn our work. Start off with a chain 1, single crochet into the first one. This time there's a gapping one in the one below, so this time is a half double crochet in the chain 1 gap, then a double crochet into the middle one, double crochet into the next chain 1 gap, and then the final one is a treble. So what I want you to do in row number 20 is that I want you to drag your stitch marker. So just grab your stitch marker. This time I have actually got a blue one ready for me, and so I'm gonna drag my blue here. So every time I get to the bottom section of this, so no matter how I turn it, I always know that this red one is the top one as per the diagram, because I've written that down, and so the blue one will always represent the bottom. So every time I get a bottom one done, I'll just take the string and just feed it through to the next one, so that I know which side is up and which side is down. So let's move along, and we're gonna go to row number 21 next. So let's move along to 21. Let's turn our work and chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and again this one is gonna be a partial, like a gapping one, so it's gonna be a treble in the first one, followed by a chain 1, double crochet into the middle one, followed by a chain 1, and then single into the first, and that was row number 21. 22, let's turn our work and move to row 22. Chain 1 first, single crochet into the first one. The last one was a gapping space, so this time is solid, so it has to be a half double into the first chain 1 space, and then a double into the middle double, double into the next chain 1 space, and then a treble into the final. Like so. So that is row number 22. Let's move along to row number 23. 23 is the final before we start going straight again up the other side. So number 23, we're going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Treble into the first one. And I can tell from the row below and even from the diagram that it's going to be a partial, so it's chain 1 and then double into the middle one, chain 1 and then single into the next one. So this concludes actually making the whole bend on the bottom side. So let me pull up the work and show you exactly what's going on. So you can see that you've come up this side, come back down, and now you're starting to bend, and now you're finished doing the bottom corner. And now as we go up, we're gonna start joining it to these 3 that you see here. So these top 2 that you see at the top where the stitch markers in between is gonna be what's attaching to your center lace, and then the bottom ones here are these 2 are gonna be the hanging loose. It depends on how you're putting it on your project, but you should always have 2 loops hanging on the bottom and always 2 loops hanging on the top that are not attached to anything else. Let's begin row number 24. 24, we're gonna start off by chaining a 3. So 1, 2, 3. We wanna join to the neighbor, so you're just gonna bend it around and look for the 3 that you can see. There's 1, 2, and 3. It's gonna be the first one. So just slip stitch around it and then chain 3 again. So 1, 2, 3, and then go back to where you're working. And this is number 24, this row. So you can see that there's a gapping spaces in the rows below, but we're just going to do double crochets in each one, including the gapping spaces across. Remember, there's only gonna be 5. So basically it's double crochet in the middle one, double crochet into the chain 1 space, and double crochet into the final. And that completes off row number 24. And so you can see how you've just joined it to the neighbor as well. Let's turn our work and go to row number 25. We're gonna start by chaining of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Coming back in, we're just gonna double crochet into the beginning. And this one's a gapping row, so it's chain 1 after that, double crochet into the middle one, chain 1, and then double crochet into the first one. And that is row number 25. Row number 26, we're gonna start off by chaining a 3. So 1, 2, and 3, and then we just this time we just stretch this back out and get where the next one is going up the other side, and there it is. And we're just gonna slip stitch around it and then chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then this time it's a double crochet in each one of the 5 stitches that are there. Just like that. And that's row number 25. Or sorry, that was row number 26. I apologize. That was row 26. Moving on to 27 next. Row number 27 is the final in the repeat, but I've got to show you something after that. So I just don't stop right when you finish this and repeat back. I need to show you something. So we have to then chain 6 to begin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we start off by just double crocheting into the first one, chain 1 space, chain 1, sorry, and then double crochet in the second over, chain 1, and go into here. So at this point, number 27 is the repeat pattern of this, but I need to show you the next row one more time, which is row number 6, because row number 6, if you look at it, and let me pull the pattern and show you. So as I said, we've just finished off row number 27. So 6 to 27 is a repeat pattern. The only difference that you see, do you see how it's attached right here? Okay, but you don't see that here in number 6 because number 6 doesn't have anything to attach to. So you have to make sure, even though you're repeating the rows from 6 to 27, that the very first one, which is your row number 6, attaches to your neighbor before moving on. Okay, so if you just chain 6 and you don't attach it, you're going to only be attached twice. So I'm going to show you that one more time, which is row number 6, and then you can just get started. So you can push rewind at any time. I'll put the button on screen right now. So let me turn our work and show you row number 6 one more time, but this time we are going to be doing an attachment. I just explained that seconds earlier. So 1, 2, and 3. And so the row number 6 would have said for you to do a chaining of 6, only do 3, attach it to the very final of the 3 that you have. So you see how it's attached 1, 2, this is the third. So attach it to the final, and then 1, 2, and 3. And so then you can begin then row number 6 as it indicates, and I'll show you that right now one more time. So this is row number 6. It just starts off with the treble first, and then the gapping space. So the next one is going to be a double into the gap space, and then double into the middle, half double into the next one, and single into the next. Okay, so basically you can see how the S-ing formation is now happening as per the instructions. And so you gotta just make sure you turn it the same way as the pattern just to show you. So basically this is what it looks like at this point. So basically how you do number 6 to start, the only difference is that you're going to attach to the final one. And hopefully that makes any sense to you. At any time now you can start pushing the rewind button to take you back, and it is gonna start you with number 6, but if you're still at this point in the video, just know that you've already done it, and so you're gonna move up to row number 7 then next from that point. So at this particular point in the video you should be at the point where you have 19 of these uppers. Okay, so there's gonna be 19 curves in the upper, and there will be 19 at the bottom. So what we have to do is that we have to make sure that there's 20 curves in the top by the time that we're done, and still only 19 at the bottom. So at this particular point is that you should have finished off all the way to number 27, and basically all the way from 6 to where we got here, the 6 all the way to, so this is basically a repeat pattern from what you see. All the way to 16 is the same thing. Okay, so 6 to 16 is the same thing of what you did, and then we just change in the final 2 rows and what we want to do in order to finish, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick the video back up from rows number 7. Okay, so you can do 6 as normal, so rows number 7, and then I'm gonna take you back all the way down to here, and this will be the final that we have. So your sample should have all of these already ready, and I have already mine done off camera ready for the next part of this tutorial. So I'm going to take you back, and this is rows number 6 already completed, and we're gonna start off with row number 7 again as we come back all the way down on the top. So to begin number 7 we're going to chain 1 first, and then single crochet into the first one. So you already know how to do this. This is a gapping one, so we're gonna chain 1 and then double crochet in the middle, chain 1, and then just treble into the final, and that is the number 7 at this point. Let's move on to row number 8 in the final leg of this Bruges lace. Number 8 we're gonna turn our work, and we're just gonna chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we're going to then start off with a treble into the first one, and this time there's a gapping space in the rows below, so this one has to be solid, so the next chain 1 space is a double, the middle one is a double, the next one is a half double, and then a single crochet, and that was row number 8. Let's move on to row number 9. Let's turn our work and move up to row number 9, which is the middle point of the upper side, and it's just chain 1, single crochet into the first one, followed by a chain 1 because this one's a gapping one, double crochet into the middle one, chain 1, and then treble into the final. So at this particular point too, you can pull you have number 9 done, you can pull that yarn through, so you can pull your stitch marker through the top side just to make sure that you don't lose count of which is which. And you probably most likely would have been doing this all the way across if you're following my lead. So let's continue to row number 10. Let's turn our work and do number 10, and it's starting off with chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and starting off with a treble, and this one is a solid line, so the next one then is a double right in the first chain 1 space, and double into the middle one, and half double into the final chain 1 space, and single into the last, and this was row number 10. Let's move on to row number 11. Let's turn our work, move up to row number 11, chain 1 first, single crochet into the first one, okay, and then chain 1, double crochet into the middle one, chain 1, and then just treble into the final, and that was row number 11. Row number 12, let's turn our work, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, treble into the first, okay, and then double into the first chain 1 space, double into the middle, okay, half double into the next chain 1 space, and single into the next, and this is row number 12. So you can really see the bending is starting to happen once again, if you can see it like that. Row number 13, let's turn our work again, chain 1, Row number 13 at this particular point is that we're going to start joining to the actual neighbor across the way. So we're basically gonna work ourselves and just attach to all 3 of these at some point. So we just chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3, and just reach across and grab the first one that's available, the first chain 6 loop, and then just slip stitch around it and chain 3 again. Okay, and then this time it is 13, so it is just double crochet into the first one. Okay, it's followed by a chain 1, double crochet into the middle one, chain 1, and double crochet into the next one. So we're working down the straight point now of this and attaching as we go. Let's move along to row number 14. 14 is just chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and just simply just double crochet into the first one, double crochet into the next chain 1 space, double crochet into the middle, double crochet into the chain 1 space, and double crochet into the beginning, or to the next one, sorry, the final one. And let's move on to row number 15. Number 15, we're going to join to the next loop that's available over here. Chain 3 to start, 1, 2, and 3, and then just stretch over and just grab into the loop and slip stitch around it. Okay, turn your work, it's just easier, and then chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, work back into what you've already started, so it's a double crochet into the first one. Okay, followed by a chain 1, double crochet into the middle, followed by a chain 1, double crochet into the middle, or to the last one, sorry. Okay, and that's number 15. Let's turn our work and go for row number 16. Okay, and number after this then it becomes what we're seeing in the diagram, so we've never done before. So we're going to start off by chaining of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, double crochet into the first one, followed by a double crochet into the next chain 1 gap, and then double crochet in the middle, double crochet into the chain 1 gap, and double crochet into the next. So what we're going to do then is from the remainder of this tutorial, there's only 2 more rows, very very quick and simple, but it's the very final to be able to finish it off so that we're ending at this particular point. So remember, this will be much bigger for you because it'll be a whole entire strip before you get to this point. So let's move on to the final 2 rows. Okay, this is the second last row. We're gonna start off by chaining a 3, so 1, 2, and 3, and reach over and grab that next loop that's available to you. Okay, that's over here, so it'll be your 3rd time you're attaching, so 1, 2, and 3, and then chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and you're double crocheting back into this section, so you know how to do this. Chain 1, double crochet into the middle, okay, chain 1, and double crochet into the next. Okay, so that wasn't so hard, right? And the reason why I said you haven't done that before, because every time we've done this we've already started to do the curve as we've been doing it. So this is what would have been right here, and you see it would have started off with the treble, double, and a single. This time it's just double, double, and double. Let's do your very final last row. So here's your last row. Just turn it, and we're just gonna simply chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then just go into the to this double crochet in the opposite side. Okay, so skip that middle one and just go for a slip stitch. So just through and through, and you were done. So just trim off that and your whole entire lace strip should then be done at this point. And again, it will be much bigger. So let me pull out my other sample that I've been working with. Okay, so basically my whole sample basically is big. Okay, so you'll have it all the way done, and then once you get all of these done, I would recommend doing both of the strips first, and then we're gonna start doing the center strip in the next part of this tutorial. So this is it. So finish off your 2 strips and we'll see you back, and when we start the next part of this tutorial I'm going to be doing the center strip that appears on the shawl. Until then, we'll see you at the next point of this tutorial. So now it's time to move on to the center strip, and you can see it on the model here. It's a really generous strip. There is a repeat pattern that exists within what we're about to do, and you can actually see that we're gonna do the center strip next. So let's begin, and we're gonna start off with reviewing some of the instructions first, including the diagram. So we're back to the diagram, and we've already done the S formation of our breeches lace, and now it's time for the center strip. So when we go to be able to start the chaining, what we're going to do is that we're going to start chaining just like so, and there's a chaining of 5. So I marked it on my particular sample here that I have 5 chains and then a slip stitch, 5 chains, a slip stitch, 5 chains, a double treble, 5 chains, a slip stitch, 5 chains. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, you got the S formation just like so, and you say, okay, well, is the designer wrong because she didn't go all the way across? No. So what's happening here is that this is giving you an example how everything is going. So if you're not at the end of the row just like you see here, you're simply just after 5 you're going to restart back over here again and slip stitch into the next one that you see, and then 5 and then slip stitch. So you just got to keep on going down the end until you get to the final one right here, and then you have 7 chains at the end before you'll stop. And so it really gives you a great indication. So what you see in the diagram here is rows number 1, okay, and 2, just like this. And so this is the beginning of it. So when you go and look at the other diagram, you've already done rows number 1, okay, and so and then you're about to start row number 2. Okay, does that make sense to you? So basically it's the same thing. See? 1 and 2. Okay? It's the same. So what you're going to do then, you're going to, after you get this done, you're going to repeat right from 2 to 6 3 more times, and then complete number 7 that you see here, and then 8. Okay, at the very end. And then this shows you how to attach the other breeches lace on the other side, and we'll get to that point. So basically at this point in the tutorial I'm going to show you how to join onto one of your strips. So you gotta pick up one, and do you see how this is facing away from the designer? Okay, it's away from the center strip, because if you look at the other example that I had in the actual pattern, you can see here the breeches, this is the first one. So the first one faces away from the center strip just like it shows in the diagram. Okay, so the base, the first one faces away. And so basically you're going to attach all the way across. So at this point we're going to attach it starting on this side, okay, and work our way across and join the beginning chain as we go to the first strip. So let's begin our first chain that we're going to do, and it's going to be attaching. So you want to match the diagram to your sample. So you'll have your one strip up, and then we're going to start our chain over here, and we're going to join it. So we're going to do 5 chains, slip stitch, 5 chains, slip stitch, and then 5 chains, double treble, 5 chains, slip stitch, and we continue to do that all the way across. So you have to make sure it matches exactly the formation that you see that matches the diagram going across. So let's just start off with a slip knot and insert our hook, and let's begin. So let's begin. We're going to start off by chaining of 5. So 1 2 3 4 and 5, and once you get your 5 in, you just pull up the sample, and you'll always have these 2 loops on the top. Okay, so you can see this one here is because it's the edge, but you only have 2s on the tops. Okay, 2 loops. So we're gonna go into the first one. So we're just gonna go around the chain 6 gap, or chain 6 loop, and pull through and through. So it's just a slip stitch, chain 5, 1 2 3 4 5, okay, slip stitch around the next one, chain 6 gap there, okay, and now chain 5, 1 2 3 4 and 5, and now we're going to double treble right into this section right here. So go right completely around it. So to double treble we wrap 3 times. So 1 2 and 3. Okay, so you see 3 loops on your, or 3 loops on the hook. Go in underneath, okay, grab it all and pull through, and then pull through 2 2 2 and 2 all the way back to the top. Okay, so it looks like a T, and let's do our chaining of 5 again. So 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, so we're gonna be back to the top of the next curve. Okay, it's the top loop, and just slip stitch, and then 1 2 3 4 and 5, slip stitch to the next loop. Okay, chain 5, 1 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then double treble right into the joining again. So wrap 3 times. I just go right underneath it, pull through 2, 2, 2 and 2 back to the top, chaining of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, slip stitch to the next loop. Okay, chaining of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, slip stitch to the next loop, and then again chain 5 and do your double treble. And I want you to do that all the way across, so you're kind of filling it in, and you can see I'm using a different color yarn, so it's gonna have a little bit of a different effect as well. So please do that all the way for the first chain as you're going through the outside strip, or sorry, for the center strip. Okay, so off camera I have been going all the way across, so I'm just finishing up. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and this one is a treble in. It's 1, 2 and 3. And so I want to follow exactly what I saw in the diagram on how it's finishing. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I'm just gonna come into the final curve that you see. We're gonna get the first one, first slip stitch, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, get the next one, first slip stitch. Okay, and so the final, after the final one that you get on the top is chaining of 7. So we want to finish this with a chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So that concludes on the first row to be able to go all the way across. And so now I've just joined it, and you can see I've used accent color in order to do so. So let's move on to the next part of this, the next row. So I want to start row number 1, and row number 1 basically we're just gonna double crochet straight across. Do not double crochet around the chain itself. Use the actual chain to go into. It'll keep the work more stable, because you'll end up with really inconsistency if you actually use this as a chain to go around to. So go into each one of the chains as you go. I've just kind of marked it that there is 5 double crochets in between where it's joining. So every time you get your one that is over top of the slip stitch, you are going to just double crochet around the entire thing. So you're just gonna go right over top into this sections that you see here, into the chain 6s that you can see. So this row is very simple, just stay within the chain. So let's begin to do that next. So off camera I've already turned my work, and I want to go to the 4th stitch. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I want to double crochet. Okay, and it's gonna require a little bit of getting used to at first. It's like crocheting the very first starting of an afghan. So you're gonna double crochet the 4th one, and then each of the next 4 before you're gonna get to that slip stitch. So that's 1, I want to be very honest in this video that if I'm struggling, I want to show you that I'm struggling a little bit, because I just want to keep this video real. So this is 3, 4. Okay, so there you see. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So there should be a total of that. So I have my 4 in, and now the 5th one, okay, the 5th is gonna be right over top into this chain 6. So we're just gonna double crochet, just going right into it. Okay, so right over the chain into that chain 6 of the gapping space, and double crochet as normal. And now I want to double crochet another 5 in a row. So just again into the chain. See, a lazy person like me, normally I would probably do it. I'd probably just go around the whole chain and say screw it, but I'm not going to. I think it makes a huge difference on this particular pattern. This is a higher end shawl, so I don't want to cut the corners of it, because I don't want it to look like that at the end. So 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so there should be 5 double crochets before you get to that slip stitch again. Once you're at the slip stitch, you just double crochet right over top of the chain and into that turning chain, or into where it's curving. So okay, let's continue. I'm just gonna continue one more time. So we just go to the next 5. So just right into the next 5 chains. I'm getting a little quicker. I'm getting more used to it. Again, it's creatures of habit, right? We just gotta practice. And every time I get 5, Now if I've off counted by 1, I will probably fudge it. I'm not gonna deny that. So you probably would never notice anyway. So I have my 5 in again. Now I'm over top of the actual double treble, and so I'm just gonna double crochet into that one as normal. Okay, so every time you're over a double treble, it's just normally just 1 right over top of it, and then there will be another 5 after that one before you hit the next slip stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is my next one, and then there's my slip stitch again as the next one, so that just gonna go around it and continue that. So you can see it looks a lot nicer if you go into the chain versus if you were to skip it and just go into and just bunch it all up onto one chain. So continue to that same process going all the way over for number 1. So I've just finished off row number 1, and this will be the hardest row I think of all of them because you were working on the chain, and you can see it's going all the way across. So you'll notice in this pattern that we have some color changes to do within the center strip. Let me review that next and then start on row number 2. We're now gonna start row number 2, and rows number 2 through all the way to 6 is a repeat pattern, and we need to repeat this a total of 3 times. But you should know that if you're following the diagram in here and the written instructions, that rows number 4 and 5 are different colors. So this fancy stitch work in the middle is a different color. I'm gonna use red of all things. I want an accent color through at the center. So when I'm working on this between rows 2 to 6, I'm gonna change my colors in rows number 4 and 5. And let's begin to do row number 2 next. Let's start row number 2, and I'm just gonna turn my work and get myself reset, and I'm still using my same color. Again, the color choices are up to you. I'm gonna follow the color scheme. I'm just having my own color ideas that we have going on. Color scheme meaning I'm gonna change the colors where it tells me to change colors. So row number 2, we're gonna start off by chaining of 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and if you looked at the diagram, that counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. So what we need to do is that we're going to skip every other stitch down on the row below, and we are just going to double crochet into, so skip the first one, go to the second over, and double crochet, and follow that by a chain 1. So skip the next one and go to the second one over for a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. Again, skip the next one, go to the second over for a double crochet, followed by a chain 1. Do that all the way across. This one's gonna be a really quick crossing, and please do that now. Okay, I'm just finishing up row number 2, and I'm just kind of blazing along. It's kind of a nice pattern to be able to have a little bit of intensity with and then just a bit of a relaxer row with just double crochet and chaining 1. So I want to come all the way to the end. I'm not going to change my color at the end as per the pattern. We're gonna change it one step after this. So we're doing the repeats rows from 2 to 6 at this time in this pattern. And I'm really liking the drape on this already. You can tell with the sock yarn it's really it's gonna flow nicely once it's completed. It's got a bit of weight to it, but not too heavy, but it is wonderful. So I'm gonna come right to the very end in order to complete it. I'm just looking at the diagram to confirm what I want to do at the end. So there we're just making sure that we have just gapping on the end just like this. Okay, so come out all the way to the end just like this. Let's turn around and go for row number 3. Keeping the rows same for number 3, we are going to just chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to double crochet into each of the chain 1 spaces plus each of the double crochet as well. So basically it's gonna be a solid double crochet line as we go across. So in the space and also in the double crochet, so 1 each, and do that all the way across for row number 3. So it's not so hard. You just gotta work within the chain spaces and the double crochet. So join me at the end of this one and we'll move up to row number 4, and row number 4 the game plan changes. We're gonna change colors and do a little more fancier stitches at that point. So I'm just finishing up row number 3 and I want to fasten off at this point, but here's the trick. So I gotta fasten off and I'm gonna weave in the ends better off camera, and if you're doing this type of project you're probably very familiar how to weave off ends anyway. So I'm going to leave this like so, and then I'm gonna use a darning needle and hide it. But you will notice in row number 4 it says do not turn. So what you need to do is that normally in projects we would turn and then start the next row, but what we want to do is that we want to reverse all the way back to where we had started on this particular row and begin row number 4. So when I start off with row number 4 I want to start right off in the beginning, just right over here. Now the reason for this is that I can tell through years of experience that the designer wants us to do this because the next part of the design is going to probably have a raised effect that will pop out either through the back or through the front side, and because of that if we start like what I'm about to do, it's gonna cause the work to form properly to give you the edging that you will need in order to have the same effect that the designer has made with the model sample. So without further ado, let's grab on our next color. So we are actually going to change color at this point, and for the next 2 colors for 4 and 5, for rows 4 and 5 we're going to use a different color, and I'm gonna pull up red of all things. I want an accent color of red for my particular sample. We're now ready for row number 4, and row number 4 we are going to start on the same side that we had started in the last row. So it's not a matter of turning. I've already explained that in the last part of this tutorial. So we're gonna chain up 1 and then it's 3 single crochets, and then basically I put a 2 in here to indicate how many stitches I need to skip over in order to create this beautiful stitch just like so. So let's begin, and of course we're gonna repeat that all the way across, and we're gonna finish off with 3 single crochets on the other side. So let's begin. I'm just going to create a slip knot. I'm leaving a generous tail so I can be able to hide that in later with a darning needle, and I want to start on by fastening it to the first double crochet. Now the slip knot is just the way I like to join because I get kind of paranoid things are gonna fall out. So I join it with the slip stitch, chain 1, and then single crochet into the same one, and we have the single crochet into that one plus the next 2, and I'm burying in my loose end as I go as well. So you just bury that in. So now I have to skip 2 stitches, okay, but I'm gonna chain 2 first, 1 and 2, skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and double crochet into the third one just like this, chain 2, 1 and 2, and then double crochet into the same stitch as the last double crochet. Okay, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet into the third one, and here's the repeat pattern. So basically it's chain 2, skip 2 stitches, double crochet into the third, chain 2, double crochet into the same one, chain 2, skip 2, and single crochet into the next. Let me do that one more time for you. So let's repeat this. So we're gonna chain 2, 1 and 2, skip 2 stitches, go to the third for a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the third or to the same one, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and go to the third one for a single crochet. Please do that all the way across just like I just showed you. Okay, I've gone all the way across and I just have my last one. So if you look at the pattern you'll notice that there is 3 single crochets as your final 3, and my count is perfect without having to do any fancy stitch work, which is perfect. So I'm just gonna finalize off with the 3 single crochets right at the end. So what I want to do, we're gonna start on row number 5. Row number 5 has some puff stitching and it's gonna be fabulous. So just turn your work, keep your same color on if you're following the diagram for colors at this time. So let's start on the next row. Let's begin to do row number 5. We're gonna start off by chaining a 4, which counts as a treble. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to treble into the next 2 single crochets that you have available. So you have to wrap twice going into the stitch, pull through 2, 2 and 2, and do that twice. So we're going to be doing puff stitching after this. So let's get our trebles done. So you should have a total of 3, and now let's begin to do the puff stitch, and the puff stitch is done right in the middle of the V that you have right here. Okay, so every time you have a V you're doing puff stitching. To do the puff stitching we're just going to wrap the hook and yarn over and go in and into the center of the V, pull through. Okay, and we're gonna continue to do that 2 more times. Okay, so let's do it again. We're gonna yarn over, go into the same spot and pull through. You're leaving all of these loops onto the hook, and we're gonna do it 1 more time. So yarn over, go through everything and keep it. So what we want to do is that we want to pull this yarn through everything but the last 2 loops. So pull everything through, just go right to the last one. Let's begin to do the puff stitch. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do puff stitches inside each one of these V's that you have. So here and here, and the puff stitching is going to kind of fan out. So let's we're gonna yarn over, go right into the center of the V and pull the yarn through and hold it, and then do it again. So yarn over, go into the center of the V, pull through and hold. So you're keeping all of this stuff on your hook, yarn over, pull everything through and hold. So what you need to do is that you need to go pull through everything but the final loop. You don't want to go through the final loop. So just yarn over and pull through everything, and it may take a bit of getting used to do that, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. We're gonna repeat how to do this again. So at this point we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Let's do another puff stitch into the center of the V, and there's a total of 3 of those inside each one of those. So we yarn over, going in, pull through. So that was 1, yarn over, pull through, that's 2, yarn over, go through, pull through, is 3. Okay, so we're gonna yarn over and pull through everything but the final loop. Okay, and then yarn over and pull through the final 2, and then chain 2, and let's begin to do this again. So this is the final one. So yarn over, going in, pull through, yarn over, in, so that was number 2, yarn over, in, pull through. Okay, so pull through everything but the final loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. So every time you get a group of 3 in there, you're going to chain 1 only, and then start into the next V all the way over here. Okay, so let's begin to do that again. So yarn over, going into the next V, pull through, that was 1, do it again, 2, 3, there you go. Pull through everything but the final loop. So you only have 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the both, and then chain 2, 1 and 2. Okay, let's do another puff stitch. So in, and do it a total of 3 times. Okay, pull through everything but the final loop. So you have the 2 loops on your hook, pull through the 2, then chain 2. Okay, another puff stitch in. Okay, pull through everything but the final loop, and yarn over and pull through the final. And because you've got your 3 in there, in order to get to the next one you only have to chain 1, and then begin to do the puff stitching for 3 more times. And please do that all the way across, and you end up with it looking like this at this point. So I'm just finishing up row number 5, and I'm doing my puff stitching at the very end, and it takes a little bit more time to go across when you're doing the puff stitching, but luckily you don't have to do it very often. So it's not a deal breaker for me, and I do understand why the designer has asked for it, because it actually is quite exquisite, and I know it's gonna be worth the time after the end. So I'm just finishing up my puff stitch. There we go. We're gonna to keep in line with the pattern, we're just gonna simply just treble right into the final 3. So to treble, remember, wrap your hook twice and treble in into the final 3. Now I'm going to be done with this color, and in order to keep it in line with the color scheme that the designer has asked for, this is where you will change your colors, and if you don't want to, that's completely up to you. So this is what it looks like at this point, and we're gonna move back to the gray color as we move along within this pattern. I guess at this point you're just gonna trim off your ends, just weave them off, and we're gonna move up to the next row, and we're gonna start exactly where we left off. It's not like the other row where we did the red, where we started off on going back in the other direction. So we're just gonna turn our project, grab our gray, and then move up to the next part of this tutorial. So let's begin round number 6. So this is the final row before it repeats, and you have to go back to 2 again in order to repeat the pattern going all the way. So you're gonna repeat from 2 to 6 3 times after this point. So let's start off. I'm just gonna insert my hook into the beginning, and I'm just gonna join it with a slip stitch. I prefer this method because I get paranoid things are gonna fall out, and I'm just gonna let my tails fall down. We're gonna just simply just chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and the first 2 trebles that you see here, and I'm gonna put my ends underneath, is that there's gonna be 1 double each. Okay, and we're just doing double crochet all the way across, but where we position the double crochet is really important. So you have your 3, I'm just gonna move these in behind, you have your 3 what are those, puff stitches. So according to the instructions, that there is a double crochet in 1 puff stitch, a double crochet into the chain 2 space, double crochet in the puff, double crochet into the chain 2 space, and then a double crochet into the space here. So it's just a matter of just watching where everything's going. So let's start. We're just gonna double crochet into the first puff. Okay, and we're gonna double crochet into the chain 2 space in between the puffs. Okay, we're going to double crochet, I just had an extra ply in there. We're gonna double crochet into the middle puff, and we're gonna double crochet into the next chain 2 space, and then we're gonna double crochet into the final puff like so, and then double crochet into the gapping space. Okay, so we're in between the 2 groups. So let's review that one more time. So a puff, double crochet into the first puff, double crochet into the chain 2 space, double crochet into the next puff, double crochet into the chain 2 space, double crochet into the final puff of that group of 3, and then just double crochet in between the 2 groups of 3. Continue to do that all the way across, and you'll notice that it's gonna really start coming out really quite pretty at this point. So just double crochet across, exactly what I just said, and when we come back, this is gonna be the end of the repeats for 2 to 6. You'll have to repeat what you've just seen done here 3 more times in order to make it work, and then you have to, we'll come back and I have to do a lot of crocheting off camera, bring you back, and we'll finish up number 7 together, as well as the final row, and then we'll attach the other side, and then we'll be done with today's tutorial. I'm now finishing up row number 6, and I'm just double crocheting all the way across, and the final 3 trebles, you're just 1 double crochet into each. On screen right now it'll say to rewind back to row number 2, where we'll start at this point. And if you look at the instructions, do you see that we have the nice stripe of the red? So when you look at the instructions that you have here, is that you see that there's blue lines, and those are representing the stripes that we're going to do. So if you're at the first time going through this video and you've just completed the first one, you need to do 3 more strips of this, so there'll be a total of 4. And then at the very end I'm gonna come back, and then we're gonna finish off, and we're gonna do row number 7 and 8 here, and then basically it's attaching. So I'm gonna leave that for you. I got a lot of homework off camera to complete at this time, and I want to keep on this color and move back to row number 2 to begin the process of doing this all over again. So the advantage is I don't have to do this chain like I started off with in the very beginning. We can just start off row number 2, which has the gapping spaces like so, and it's really quite fabulous. Well, I'm back, and due to the miracle of the internet, you'd think I just left you minutes ago, and here it is complete. Well, the reality is that the filming last night finished around 9:30 p.m. and it's now 4 o'clock the very next day on being able to do it. So I've actually done the remainder of the center just overnight and throughout the day today. So what you should have at this point is, before you go on to the next part of this tutorial, is that you should have the repeat pattern 3 more times, and this will give you 4 layers of colors if you're changing it as per the diagram. So when we have it in the diagram itself, is that I would have told you that you needed to repeat from 2 all the way to 6, coming back up, and now in this part of the tutorial we're gonna finish the final 2 rows, which is number 7, and then the very next row, and the next row actually attaches to the other side of the other lace strip that you haven't touched at this point. So without further ado, let's move on to row number 7, and it's exactly kind of what you've already done with row number 2, and let's just get this done. So row number 7 should be no surprise to you. It's going to be starting with the chaining of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We skip the first one, go to the second, and double crochet. So we already done that before in row number 2. We're just doing it one more time. So then after that, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then double crochet into the second one over. So chain 1, skip the first stitch, double crochet into the second over. Please do that to complete row number 7. Okay, so off camera I went across and I did my stitches that I needed to do for row number 7, and it was basically the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, as you see. So I'm taking you back to the original one that we started off with right in the beginning of doing the Bruges lace, and we did our center strip. Now do you notice that the way the look of this Bruges lace is? So you see that the center strip is here and the edges, the starting is facing away from the center. Do you see that? So no matter what side you're looking at, the starting is away. So when I started the next project, or sorry, the center strip, you would have noticed that when I did the center strip, the first one is facing away. So what I need you to do at this point, as we're going to start up to do the final row, is that the next strip that we're about to apply, okay, and here it is off camera, is that I want to make sure that it's going to face the correct way. So if I do it like this, okay, and it's matching the same, then I know that I've done it wrong. So I have to make sure that it's facing away. So this finishing is gonna face away from the project. So it basically is going to join like this. Okay, so once you get that into your mind, it's really quite easy. So within this particular area of the tutorial, what I did on this, okay, is that there's actually 6 double crochets and then you have the slip stitch. 6 double crochets, slip stitch. So you're slip stitching into the chaining 6 area just like so, and then there's 6 again. And then what we need to do in this area, which is kind of neat, if we remember in the very beginning that when we did the Bruges lace attaching before, do you remember that we came down with a double treble all the way down just like so? So what this is, the chaining up and then basically chaining up and slip stitching back on it, this is actually a double treble but done in a way so that you end up back here, because if you do a double treble and go the other way, it's not possible. So it's a way of extending forward, and we're basically gonna grab the Bruges strip there, and again another 6 double crochets, slip stitch 6, and so on. So let's begin and let's do this. I've never done anything like this, so let's play with this idea on camera. So let's begin the final row. So you're going to see me attaching new yarn. The reason for it is that the last yarn ball, I only had like 3 or 4 feet left, and I did not want to start the line and then have to have a change of the yarn like so close to the end of the project. So I'd probably be changing it just like within a couple inches in. So I didn't want that. So I'm going to attach the yarn, and you will have just immediately just start to chain up. So you're going to chain up 3, and I'm just gonna attach some new stuff. And sometimes you have to make that judgment call when you're working with yarn especially. So that was 1, 2, and 3. So basically I said that there's 6 double crochets, so this counts as one of them. So we have to do 5 more. So we're just gonna go and double crochet. So we have to play within the chain 1 space as well, which is gonna count for that as well. So let's just do 5 more. So the first one's in the chain 1 space. So 1. The next one is in a double crochet for 2. Next one is in a chain 1 space for 3. Okay, and 4 and 5. Okay, so with the chaining of 3 that we started with, that counts as 1. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And if you look at the diagram, it should be 6. So what you need to do at this point is that we need to slip stitch to the first chain 6 space, so that you're always gonna have 2 loops down at the base. Remember that I've already done this, is that I've positioned it away that the starting will go away from the project. So to do this, all I'm just gonna do is put the hook into the chain 6 loop, grab the yarn and pull through, and immediately just start double crocheting into the next 6 spots. Okay, so that this one is going to be 1, and then the chain 1 space is for 2. Okay, double crochet for 3, double crochet for 4, double crochet for 5, and double crochet for 6. So now that I have 6 in one more time, whoops, I'm just gonna do that 6 again. I could just, it doesn't feel right in my hand, so I'm not gonna settle for that. So just do that 6 ones one more time, and now I want to grab the next chain 6 loop that's available to me. And remember, just look at these like horseshoes. So once you grab the first one, you're obviously gonna grab the next one that's available to you. So just go into the chain 6 loop, pull through, and then immediately double crochet into the next 6. So let's continue to do that, and when we come back I'm going to show you how to do that big kind of treble like feature. So let's start our next 6 again. I just needed a quick break, sorry about that, and I just want to do the next 6. So double crochet, remember you're going into the chain 1 space as well to count. So this is 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I have my 6 in again, but as per the diagram we have to do the chaining, and there's 5 chains. So we're just gonna immediately just start chaining of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and we're going to slip stitch. So with the next one we're going to slip stitch right in the middle. Okay, so you pull this up and you can see the U shapes. So we're gonna join in right there. Okay, so just go around that structure just with the loop and just go through, and that counts as your slip stitch. And what you need to do is that you need to slip stitch back through the 5 that you just went up. So just pull through and through. So that was 1 and 2 and 3, 4, that was 4, and this is 5. So now that I have my 5 in there, you can see that it's now attached. You see that? And so now I just continue back on the same row again. So we just go for another 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now that I have my 6 in, I'm going to look for the next U that's available to me. Make sure you don't twist it up. Okay, so I'm going for the next one that's available and just insert the loop around. Okay, that was a slip stitch, and do another 6. So we're back down on the row again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Again, you got your 6. Look for the next one in the shape, and I keep taking out my hook. I probably shouldn't be. I just do it out of habit. I just pull through and then go for another 6, and then we're going to do that double treble chain look again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So now that we have that, so we have to chain our 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, and we're going to join again in between. Okay, so it's right there. I just want to stretch things out to make sure I'm clarifying even with myself as I'm getting the right spot. Just slip stitch it and then come back down through the chain for 5. So 1, just slip stitch down. That was 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And start again back down in the row for another 6, and keep on joining as you go, and this will join that next strip all the way together. And we're almost done at this point. You're gonna go all the way down, and then what you're just going to do then is that we're gonna start the fringe at the end by the time we get all the way back to the other side. It's now time to start working on the fringe. Now the fringe has 20 different spots on where it goes across. Now what you're seeing here is actually not a complete accurate look of the fringe because I'm not done. So every one of these loops on the outside here will get 2 fringes each. So there'd be 1 and 2, and then every one of course in the inside will also get 2. So I've only put 1 in each. To be quite honest with you and to be very transparent with you, I kind of misread that on the pattern. So I'm coming back, take number 2 to go back and put in 2. So what you have here when you're looking at the fringe is that all the ones, do you see that there's that double crochet and chain 1? There's nothing hanging in that row. So basically you have the solid row with just 1 hanging. You skip the one with the the chain 1 and double crochet, and then solid again you put one along the red section here, and then again solid you put one there, and then you skip the one with the chain 1 double crochet in there. So you do that all the way across, and then you come back to the other side, and just like you started on the other side is that the final 3 loops on the outside Bruges lace will also get 1. So let's review on how to do this. To do the fringe you're going to need a tape measure, and you got to make sure it can at least go to 24 inches across. What you have to do is that you have to grab the yarn that you have to work with. So it says in the instructions, it says to use yarn and to cut strips of 24 inches. Now I'm not going to go through all 3 yarn balls because you want to use all the 3 colors that you did use and make these tassels. So what I want to do is that I want to pull the yarn from each of the balls. So you basically you have 3 different colors, so there should be 3 different colors just like you see here. And what I want to do is that I want to take my tape measure and just line it up and just pull the tape measure, and it's pulling the yarn from the ball at the same time to about 24 inches like so. So I'm gonna mark that with my thumb and grab my scissors and cut. So there is my tassel. So I would have done, and I did this for this one, is that I would do a whack of these, a whack meaning many, and so I'll do many of these at the same time because it's just easier to measure and cut and just put it aside and then get ready to do your project. So I want to fold it in half, and I want to form the loop on the top just like so. So what makes a difference on this particular project is that if you look really carefully you can see that the strings go across the horizontal when you're doing the tassels, and on the other side when you turn it around it's actually missing that because it's the back side. So what you have to always be paying attention to is that the angle that you put your hook in this particular side will matter. So where it's going horizontal. So for example I don't want to go down and grab this and pull up and fix it, and then the other one I go up from the underside and then fix it. So I have to make sure that I'm going in the same direction for each one if you want the consistency to be the same across the side. The horizontal lines that you see here, now this is done because I have gone up from the underside, so I want to make sure that I'm doing that the same all the way. So to do this I'm just gonna come into the outside stitch that I want. Okay, so it's just in row, and I want to insert my hook from the underside and grab the loop of 3. Now the hook size is bigger than what I was using for the project because there's more yarn on the hook that the smaller 3.75 a size F will not do this very quickly or very accurately. So I want to pull through, get all 3, grab the yarn, so you're gonna have 6 strands on your hook that you're about to pull through, and you pull through like so, and just basically let it hang. So that's how you would do it all the way across. Okay, so each one of these on the outside are going to get 2 each in order to make the consistency of the fringe. Now you're thinking to yourself, okay, is it accurate and are they hanging at equal lengths? No, not really, but you can trim that afterward once you're done. So just continue to do that all the way across. So here's what the fringing looks like when it's all completely done. It looks really quite thick and solid. When you compare to the other side is that it looks really sparse because I've only done 1 into each one of the edges, and I was questioning to myself why it was looking so much different than the model. It's just I didn't realize that you had to put 2 in each one. So you just have to go along and do it. Now here's the thing my friends, if you're gonna listen to anything I'm about to tell you, so we've been coming through from the back side and coming up coming up in order to make this work. Okay, so what you need to do is that you need to pay attention to these cross strings in here in the fringe, and you need to make sure that you pull out your project and you just pull it so it does not twist. So you just keep pull, pull, pull. Don't let it turn over on you. And so when you get to the other side, when you go to apply it, you want to make sure that you're on the same side and you can do the fringing so that it has these cross strings going on the upper side as well. So the worst thing that you could do is that if you're not paying attention to that, one side of your shawl will have it looking like this, and then the other shawl will appear backwards as the fringing will have a different appearance on the edge. And if that's important to you, you need to pay attention to that. So this concludes how to do the fringing. We hope that you've enjoyed this part. It's pretty well the easiest part of the whole entire tutorial. Thank you so much for joining us, and on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as the crochetcrowd.com, stay tuned next time for more free patterns and ideas. Until then, I'm your host Mikey, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye bye now.